Day in Green Bay. While it's going to mark the biggest event to ever take place in the NFL's smallest market, it's also essentially going to serve as a goodbye to Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy. He's going to be stepping down at the end of June due to the franchise's rule that no one older than 70 can hold the role of president. But Murphy is still working now, expecting quite the scene in Green Bay over that 3-day draft next week.
This is the second biggest event that the league has. Yeah, it's exciting that we're able to have it here in Green Bay, and the economic impact, I think it's 94 million statewide. There'll be 250,000 people here over the 3 days, but it'll be a 3-day commercial for Wisconsin and Green Bay, and it's just publicity that you really can't match.
Again, the draft gets going a week from today with the first round. Packers own pick number 23 that night. Turning to Wisconsin, they are on the field for practice this morning for the 12th time this spring. Next time they're back out there, going to be on Saturday when they hold their spring showcase in front of fans at Camp Randall Stadium.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are getting the day off today after taking 2 of 3 from the Tigers this week. It left them 7-3 at home this year, and also winners of 4 of their first 6 series of the season. Going to welcome in the A's starting tomorrow night. And the Bucs going to head to Indiana tomorrow. It's where they'll open up the playoffs against the Pacers on Saturday for Game 1. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Shams, what can you tell us about the status of Bucs star Damian Lillard?
Malika, just over 3 weeks ago, Damian Lillard was diagnosed with a blood clot in his right calf. Now, in an unprecedented fashion, now 3.5 weeks later, today, Damian Lillard has been cleared from the blood clot in his calf. He's off blood thinning medication. He's cleared for full contact workouts starting today. He participated in a full practice with the Milwaukee Bucks today. And Bucks officials have been told by doctors that this is really remarkable, unprecedented recovery for him to do this. This has really never happened before in this length of time. It typically takes athletes several months, and even human beings several months to recover from this. So what are the reasons why? Some were the specialists involved in this, the early detection, and really the early treatment that started in the calf. Even before he was diagnosed in late March, I'm told Damian Lillard started blood thinning medication as a really preventative measure. And because of that, he's now able to make a return. Now, what does this mean for his status for Game 1 against the Pacers on Saturday? I'm told he is still out for Game 1. He's going to use the next several days to ramp up, do more workouts, get his cardio. He has not played, obviously, in quite some time yet this season. But this is really a remarkable recovery for Damian Lillard, a guy a lot of people thought maybe would not even have came back this year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this could have been career-threatening, or it was. And the fact that there's a very good chance that he's going to play in the playoffs for us, that's a godsend.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
A little bit from Shams there on ESPN earlier today, breaking the news about Damian Lillard, and then a comment from Doc. I have a couple more comments from Doc. He spoke with the media today as they're getting ready. I would assume to travel tomorrow to Indy, or maybe tonight. I don't know, but they were doing activities today, or Doc was speaking to the media. I don't know. But I'll bring you some more comments and a little bit of, I wouldn't say inside information from Doc, but a little peek into what's been going on with Dame. But that's the big news of the day. Today got hot and heavy very quickly, right after lunchtime, because I produced Bill's show from 10 to 2. And the first 2 hours of the show were very low key. You know, we're BSing about the last 2 games that the Brewers won, and some of the bats that have gotten going. We're joking, torpedo bats. Oliver Dunn, torpedo bat, Rhys Hoskins, Christian Yelich hitting home runs, Sal Frelick even hitting a home run. We talked about that yesterday. But we talked about that for the first hour or so, Bill's show, and then we're kind of BSing about the draft, which is now a week away. It'll be next Thursday, the first round at least. And then all of a sudden, a little bit after 12 o'clock, a little bit after noon Central and into the 1 o'clock hour, all of a sudden, Damian Lillard has been cleared of his blood clot and can resume playing basketball. We don't know when he will be back on the court in games. That could still be a bit. We don't know. but the blood clot's good. Like, that's resolved. That's huge, major breaking news and pretty surprising. At least for me. Maybe you believed that he was due back any day. I didn't think it was going to be anytime soon. And then all of a sudden, Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show talking about the offseason that he's had and his future. So I have a lot of sound from that interview that we'll probably pick through. Most of it was pretty standard Aaron Rodgers. I actually thought the most interesting part of that interview was him pulling back the curtain a little bit on how it ended with the Jets. I thought that was juicy. I thought that was the most interesting part. The rest of it was like, I'm my inner circle and all these narratives and, I'm in communication with all these teams. Like that was all expected. That was, Aaron Rodgers 101. But some very interesting comments about especially his final meeting with the Jets brass and their new coach, Aaron Glenn. So I saved some of that audio because I want to get into that at some point tonight. But we'll start with the big breaking news of the day, and that's Damian Lillard. We could assume rejoining and playing basketball with the team at some point. Could be as early as game 2. Maybe still needs more time and maybe wouldn't be able to rejoin until the second round. I don't know. But this was a huge step and a huge piece of news today. So that's where we'll begin. Justin Garcia going to join us to help fill in some of the gaps and to preview Bucks Pacers as well. He'll be here in about 20 minutes from, like I said, the Bucks Radio Network and Locked On Bucks as well. Justin, he's our go-to guy in the show. And anytime there's Bucks news, he helps us. Very, very stoic, informational, not sensationalist at all. That's my job in our little duo, in our back and forth. I'll take your calls tonight as well. 608-321-1670. If you have anything to say, more than happy to take your calls. And I'll take this first break a little early so we have a little time. I know kind of the second segment of that first hour is when a lot of people jump in. So I'll make sure to give you some time and you can comment on the live stream as well. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. At Wisco Grant on Twitter, the show, the simulcast, the video of the show as well. When I was preparing to start the show, we were going to start with the Bucks tonight anyways, because we haven't really hit on it and they start their playoff run on Saturday. And I've had a difficult time getting jacked up about the Bucks because without a healthy Dame, it's really difficult, at least for me, to envision a path where the Bucks advance past the second round. I think they could beat the Pacers without Dame, and we've talked about that. Like, Giannis is playing at an unbelievable level. I think the Pacers are good, but I think they're a tier beneath Boston and Cleveland. Maybe the Knicks. We'll see how the Knicks fare in the postseason. I'm not entirely sure what to do with the Knicks, but they're deeper, more athletic, they're better coached. They're just a step up from the Bucks like the Celtics and the Cavs. But the Pacers, I think, were beatable because Giannis is playing unbelievable basketball, and they don't really have a means to counter Giannis. They don't really have anybody to throw at him. There's no Giannis stopper in the league. And there's nobody who can stop the best 2 or 3 players in basketball. Like Iguodala was hailed as the LeBron stopper once upon a time. And LeBron was putting 27, 28 a night and a bunch of rebounds and 28 assists on his head. It's like, Iguodala, the LeBron stopper. Like, okay, like maybe he could keep LeBron from going for 50, but no one's stopping Jokic, right? No one's stopping Giannis. No one's stopping, the best players in the world. But the Pacers really don't have anybody. Right. The Celtics, they have a bunch of long, physical, strong bodies they can throw at him. And I believe the same about Cleveland. And I believe the same about New York, too, probably to a lesser degree. Indy doesn't even have that. Like, they don't even have, a couple of guys we can throw at him. No, they don't. Like, if Miles Turner is your game plan, you're cooked. And Giannis is going to score 40. The Pacers still might be able to win, but, like, Giannis could win the Bucks a series against Indy. But past that, like, I couldn't even dare to dream. I couldn't even squint to see a path where the Bucks could go on a deep playoff run. And that limits my excitement a little bit. That limits my enthusiasm going into a series, even though I think the Bucks can win it. They just had a hard ceiling. Now that Dame is back, that changes a little bit. I still don't think they're going to go on a deep postseason run, but now I can squint and try to convince myself. Now I can at least dare to dream a little bit. And the Bucks, I hope, if Damian Lillard is going to be back sooner rather than later, are going to get a chance to do something they haven't done since 2021, and that is try with their full complement of players, right? Like, I don't think the Bucks were going to win a title the year that they lost to the Heat in the first round, and I don't know that they were going to win a title last year if Dame and Giannis, if everyone was healthy. I still think Boston, Cleveland, and other teams were better. But, man, I would have liked to at least seen it. I would have liked to see the Bucks fully healthy try. I would have liked to get to watch them at least try. I would have liked to watch the Bucks in the postseason and think, well, they just weren't good enough. Or the thing that they were trying to build didn't work, right? The game plan that they were trying to execute wasn't good enough. There was a question mark each of the last 3 years, which is kind of ridiculous, thinking, well, maybe it would have gone differently had this player been healthy or that player been healthy. And we're not talking about like AJ Green wasn't healthy or a couple of years ago, like Jay Crowder had a hitch in his get along. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Giannis, who's one of the best players in basketball, or Damian Lillard, who is the piece they brought in to complement the best player in basketball, or even going back to 2022, Chris Middleton, the player who so perfectly complemented Giannis, who was playing as good as anybody could have possibly played in a playoff series in 2022, but didn't have that sidekick. And I believe of 2022, if Chris Middleton would have been there, I think they beat the Celtics, and then who knows, right? Maybe they lose to the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. Probably far from a foregone conclusion that they were just going to win, and then they'd play the Warriors, and then they won, and then they go back to back. But we don't know, right? Because Chris Middleton never played. So I still think the Bucks, even with Damian Lillard healthy, are a team that's a tier beneath even the best contenders in the East, let alone the West. But I would like to at least see it, right? I'd like to see it play out. I would like to see them have a chance. I would like to see them at least get to try to execute the game plan and the philosophy that they have built. The idea is Giannis is one of the best players in the world. Damian Lillard is also awesome and can help win you a playoff series. The thing is built around those two, and the role players need to do just enough. Like, I would like to see that. I'd like to see what that looks like. And hopefully before too long, we're going to get to see it. This is the press release from the Bucks today. Milwaukee Bucks guard Damian Lillard has been cleared for full basketball activity as the deep vein thrombosis in his right calf has resolved, and he is no longer on blood-thinning medication. Quote, "We are thrilled for Dame," said Bucks general manager John Horst. Quote, "Our priority has always been Dame's health. We are grateful to our medical team for diagnosing and treating his DVT at an early stage and for the world-renowned hematology specialists at Mayo Clinic. Every step of Dame's recovery has been at the direction of world-class medical professionals and their specific and strict protocols that have allowed for Dame's safe and healthy return to play. Lillard will continue to increase his on-court basketball activity in preparation for his return to play." A question that I have, and something that I'm going to throw at Justin in 20 minutes here. The way that it's described among NBA people and among NBA players, we always hear about the return to play, right? We're going to ramp up for return to play. Every time we talk about a player ramping up to return to play, that player is talked about like they had a leg amputated and they're coming back from it. And the return to play is not playing in a basketball game, but it's actually like going to space. You know what I mean? Like the concept of a player who's missed a little time coming back and playing an NBA game. Well, no, we can't just put him back in there. I mean, he's got to ramp up. What do you mean? There's a ramp up period and we need to put him on a plan to return to play. Like, I get that playing in an NBA basketball game that's high level. Like the best athletes in the world, running very fast, jumping very high, a lot of strength and a lot of agility. There's a lot that goes into that. But sometimes it seems like it's overplayed. Like, let's say this. Let me give you an example. Chris Middleton turns an ankle and he misses a week. Can't practice or do anything for a week. Got to recover for a week. And then when that week is passed and the ankle looks good, well, now we got to ramp him up, right? We're going to put him on a plan, a return to play plan. It's like he didn't has his leg cut off. Like he didn't go into a coma for 3 months. He twisted his ankle. Well, but the return to play. Now, a blood clot is about as serious as it gets. And he really did have to shut down a lot of activity. But I guess part of me is hopeful. It's like, does the return to play process really need to be 3 weeks long? Does the ramp up period really need to be a month? Like, he's a basketball player. He's played basketball all his life. Like, does it really have to be another 3 weeks before he can play in a game? I don't know. I am hopeful for as soon as game 2. And maybe that's naive. And maybe, well, I don't understand and appreciate exactly what these world-class athletes are demanding of their bodies. Maybe. It just seems that sometimes when return to play is discussed or the ramp-up period, it's like he turned his ankle. He didn't have open heart surgery. He turned his ankle. And I know that Damian Lillard, the blood clot is much more serious than a turned ankle, but even minor injuries, sometimes in the NBA, it's like, well, maybe on the next road trip, got to ramp him up. Ramp him up. They're not even trying all that hard. I'm watching the game. Like, it's a regular season game. It's a Tuesday night game in January. You can't get him in there and, get him to run himself back into shape a little bit. Jared in DeForest texts in. I says, I hope the Bucks keep the style that they've won 8 straight with when they get Dame back. KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr., and Kuzma have been valuable. If Dame could be more valuable than Rollins and Green, but the team still runs it through Giannis, I think that keeps us rolling. Look, Damian Lillard is uber talented, prolific scorer, like one of the best players in basketball. So his presence on the court is going to change some things. It's not going to be point guard Giannis the entire game, which I don't think is best anyways. But Jared, here's what I'll tell you is hopefully the last 2 weeks or so, I think he was diagnosed, 3 weeks ago? So they've been playing for 2 or 3 weeks with no Dame. Hopefully this run of games has allowed Giannis to build some confidence and build him some momentum and hopefully he's got his mojo. So now you just stick Dame back in there and Giannis, is continuing to play with this mindset and with this aggression and with this confidence. Now, the X's and O's might change a little bit, but hopefully the demeanor and the aggression and the confidence that Giannis has been playing with, hopefully that sticks around. You know what I mean? It's almost like, when you swing in the on-deck circle with weights on your bat, you know what I mean? You're kind of building it up. So when you take those weights off, you really feel like you're warmed up and locked and loaded and ready to go. Hopefully that a similar principle is at play here. Like Giannis has been in the on-deck circle for the last 2 weeks without Dame, warming up, building up. And now, Dame's going to enter the equation hopefully soon. But hopefully that doesn't change too much about the way that Giannis is playing. Now, he's probably not going to handle the ball as much, and some X's and O's, some schematic stuff is going to change. But if anything else, like when Giannis goes to the bench, they have an offensive creator. Like if you want to stagger Dame and Giannis a little bit, even when they're not playing together, Giannis goes to the bench for a couple of minutes. Now Dame can run the show. He can get to the rim and to the free throw line. He can obviously hit 3-point shots as well. But even in a night where this 3-point shot isn't going down, like he can keep the team afloat and going when Giannis isn't out there, because I like what we've seen from Giannis. Love what we've seen from the Bucks the last 2 weeks too. But you can't just turn Dame into a catch and shoot guy standing in the corner, right? That wouldn't be smart allocation of his talent and what he can add to a team. So hopefully Giannis continues to carry that mentality and that attitude. And now you add Damian Lillard back in, and it's additive and it's not awkward. It's not like Damian Lillard just was acquired by the Bucks. He's been there 2 years. So there's plenty of prior experience. It's not like Giannis is going to, Dame's out here now, what do I do? Like they have plenty of experience. If you have any thoughts on this, I'll take your calls next. 608-321-1670. I will get to your comments on the talk and text line and on the live stream as well. The next segment is for you. And then the following segment at 4:30 is going to be for Justin Garcia. The Wisco Sports Show back in just a couple of minutes. Your calls next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
He's been involved in everything non-contact that you can do. He started watching film. He called me literally the moment that we beat the Pistons. He said, "Can you send me Indiana film?" So, and I was laughing. So I have nothing else to do. So just in case if I can come, I'd like to get a head start. So he's been thinking that way for a while.
It's the most Doc Rivers soundbite that I've ever heard. I mean, that's 10 out of 10, Doc. Oh, yeah, he called me right after this game, and he wanted the film. And, I mean, I hope that's true, and I hope that Damian Lillard is in that mindset. And, look, I know this Bucks team with Damian Lillard has not been this unbelievable, championship-bound super team that a lot of Bucks fans wanted or hoped for since he arrived. But I don't think you can question how dedicated and how into it Damian Lillard has been. This is not a Mike Malone Nuggets situation where Dame's not watching film and it doesn't matter to him. Like, that's not the case. Justin Garcia, Bucks Radio Network, going to join us in about 10 minutes. Some time to take your phone calls. In the meantime, 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
This is Bruce from Eau Claire.
What's going on, Bruce? Welcome.
Well, just giving my perspective on Dame.
Perfect.
I grew up in Milwaukee, and when I was in high school, was when the Bucks and the Brewers came to Milwaukee, so it was a great time. Bucks were successful right away. It took the Brewers a little longer, but I agree that it seems like it takes these basketball players longer to ramp up, to gear up. But I think the real issue there is when you get hurt, you get your offense back because you're initiating the contact, you're initiating the movement.
Okay.
Where they can't ramp up is their defense. They can't have that lateral movement when they're reacting to somebody else. And you saw that with Middleton the last couple of years. He could still shoot, but he couldn't guard his house. I mean, he couldn't move laterally, and guys were just blowing by him once every time they tried. I'm out walking, so I'm a little breathless.
No, you're good. You're working hard. And I think that's a good point. I would question whether, could Chris Middleton not defend because he had been injured, or is he just old and slow and injuries have taken a toll to the point where that's just the player he is now, Bruce? That would be my follow-up.
It's a combination of both, because the older you get, the longer it takes, and then your top level isn't quite as good. Right now, I think the key to the Bucks' success is Howard Porter Jr. and Gary Trent Jr. They're the best offense and defense combination players.
Yeah.
I need to have them on the floor.
Yeah. Well,
as much as possible.
Especially,
then you can bring AJ in.
Yes.
He's a shooter. You can bring Dame in for short periods of time, but it will depend on whether or not he can guard.
Sure.
Not whether he can shoot.
Well,
so
and I don't know.
Think that,
again, and Bruce, I'm sorry to cut you off. We just got a lot of callers. I'm sorry I keep talking over you. They're not looking at Dame to be a defensive specialist anyways. They're going to lean on other guys for that. Let's start with when Giannis needs to go to the bench, when he's presumably in all these games on his way to scoring 36, because that's probably what he's going to need to do. And he can do that against the Pacers. Can Dame keep the offense flowing for 4 minutes when Giannis gets a rest? Let's start there. And hopefully as he gets more comfortable and he gets back and he plays a little bit more, well, then he can defend at a higher level and he can add as much as possible there. He's limited as a smaller player. I'm with you, especially on Gary Trent Jr. You know what I mean? He's been in playoff runs before. Like I think he plays with an edge and with an attitude that the Bucks are going to need. Bobby Portis as well. And I loved what he told reporters the other day. He's like, look, my grandma died this year. My house was broken into this year. I got suspended. Like, I've dealt with all this crap. I'm ready to just play basketball. And I think Bobby Portis is a flawed player, but Like, I think he can help this team. Kevin Porter Jr., if he can have 1 or 2 games, especially probably at home, where he gives them a scoring lift, great. I don't know that you can expect much more than that. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, our favorite injury, deep vein thrombosis.
I can't take it seriously now because now I just think of Tony in Texas. Every time I read it or say it, like, yeah, it's a Tony in Texas thing now.
Yeah, and Chris Middleton never needed to guard his house. He lived in Brookfield, very safe community. So I think that was okay.
That's true. Yeah.
Good news about Dame. I'm happy. Kind of makes this first series a little more watchable, in my opinion. Definitely more attainable to get through the Pacers. And if anything else, I don't expect the Bucks to go on a big run, but a first series win over the Pacers would go a long way. I think just to appease Bucks Nation.
Yeah, just to not be a first round exit. And I hate to lower the bar that far, but they've been out in the first round the last 2 years. If they can just put together a nice series against the Pacers and go and compete hard against one of those teams in the second round, like, I know that's not a championship run, Bucks fans, but it's 100 times better than what we've had the last 2 years. So I'd take it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think John Horst, got to give him a little bit of credit for the additions they made at the deadline. Kuz might not be the greatest, but KPJ, solid. So,
yeah,
maybe we'll see how they do. Obviously, role players, like you said, hit it on the nail on the head. They only play well at home in the playoffs. I don't know what it is, but they really only play well at home.
Yeah. And you think in a playoff series like Kevin Porter Jr., I appreciate it, Cone. Thank you. I just want to get to one more. Kevin Porter Jr. is a guy that you can't count on every single night to put in buckets. Okay. And that was true in the regular season. You'd have nights where it's like, man, this dude can't miss. And then there'd be nights where it's like everything this guy throws up is a brick. Right. So that's going to continue to be his player profile into the postseason. It's just more likely, it seems to work out more often than not, that role players perform a little bit better at home. So if this series goes 6, can you get 2 nights where Kevin Porter gives you 15 points, some big buckets, a run in the third quarter where he scores 6 or 7 points kind of unanswered? Like that's what we're looking for from a player like Kevin Porter Jr. I like the Gary Trent Jr. mention from what was that? What was his name? I'm sorry, up in Eau Claire. I want to say Louis, but we have more than one Louis. So I apologize. But Gary Trent Jr. is a guy with some edge and some attitude, and I think he's wired the right way. So he's a player that definitely I'm hoping and expecting for some big things. Credit for John Horst. I think the Chris Middleton, Kyle Kuzma thing was more of a, we need to move off from Chris Middleton. Okay, we'll get Kuzma back, and at the very worst, it's an expiring contract, and we'll have some flexibility this summer. 608-321-1670. One more call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Little Red Riding Hood.
Hey, I'm wearing a black T-shirt today, Dave, by the way. Dave from
Oh, you're always... I blew the host down. Anyway, hey, when you see Justin, hoping on these playoffs, he'll actually offer some value, because it's tough listening to him when he's with Dave. Dave's good, but Justin doesn't belong in the broadcast. I'm sorry.
Justin, this is always your beef with Justin, is he's
horrible.
No, he offers no. Well, you don't have to like him. He offers plenty of great insight, but he's not going to be nothing. Larry McCarron yelling and doing all that.
No,
we've done this conversation 100 times. I don't want to do this again, Dave.
Yeah, that's not what I call it. I know he's your buddy, and you're going to defend him. But the one thing this year the Bucks have, they haven't had in the last 3 years, they have the intangibles. Okay. Last 2 years, they've gone in with major losing streaks and injuries. Now you got everybody healthy. It's like Tina from Texas. Your role players win at home, your stars win on the road. So yeah, so if they're gonna advance, which I suspect they should. Giannis will do it on the road. Role players at home, and now it just pushes their bench down further. Now you go 7-8 deep, and they have all the intangibles. There's no reason why this team should not be in the NBA championship game with the experience of the best number 1 player in the world. And you go 7 deep, and you have Giannis. He has no excuse. He's not having babies. The guy's at his all-time high right now. Okay, Giannis, you're the superstar. Now do it on the road where you're getting paid for.
All right. So that's about as optimistic as I've ever heard you, Dave. They do have a lot of mojo. I don't know that it means much because you take a week off. I do think Giannis playing with the edge and the attitude and the confidence over these last 2 weeks, and Dame's absence has helped with that. So now hopefully you add Dame back in, and Giannis continues to play that way. His style will have to change a little bit because you're adding another superstar into the mix, which is a good thing. But I hope his mentality, his demeanor, and his aggression carries over, even if schematically his play style might change a little bit to accommodate Dame. And first and foremost, like, let's just start with Giannis is going to have to be the driving force because the Pacers can't check him, right? Like, he should have 30-something in all of these games. He's going to have to. But I think he's capable of that because we saw that in 2021. The Suns don't have anybody for him. Okay, well, he's going to go for 36 every game. You know what I mean? He's capable of that. But when Giannis goes to the bench, can Dame keep the offense afloat? Like, I think that's a big part of this too. Not just when they're on the court together, but, I don't know what Doc Rivers is going to have cooked up, but if you stagger him a little bit, Giannis goes to the bench, Dame can help with that and keep the other team from going on a big run to where now Giannis comes back in and you're down 11. You know what I mean? Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back. Justin Garcia, the Bucks Radio Network, is going to join us to talk about the news of the day. Damian Lillard has been cleared from his deep vein thrombosis. Insert Tony in Texas joke there. But of course, we'll just preview the series too, because it starts on Saturday. Wisco Sports Show back after this.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Probably about 24 hours has been great. All great news. We didn't go a lot live today, but he was in practice throughout practice today. And now we just got to see where he's at physically. It's going to take a minute. Well, today he did everything. There's no limitations at all. Other than his lungs and timing and everything else.
That's Doc Rivers earlier today. A couple different comments that I'll mix in throughout the rest of the show. Breaking news is Damian Lillard has been cleared from his deep vein thrombosis, which I didn't see coming. I didn't think it would happen this quickly. So great news, surprising news out of Milwaukee today as they get ready to travel to Indiana for their Game 1, the postseason opener on Saturday afternoon. Joining us now to discuss, Justin Garcia, the Bucks Radio Network. You hear him on Locked On Bucks as well. Justin, the latest on Damian Lillard at this hour, maybe anything that we haven't heard, any inside, little detail or anything that you can give us would be appreciated.
Yeah. I don't have any details or any updates outside of what you just heard from Doc. I had heard for a week, 10 days, like he's going to play. Like we're very confident he's going to be cleared and return. And the whole time I just kind of thought like, okay, I get, you kind of have to have that mentality. Like I would assume you're going to approach the series of, we don't have Dame if he comes back, great. So I wasn't surprised to hear that, but to see the news, like, oh wow, they actually had reasons for that optimism.
Do you think it's nuts to hope for Game 2? Expect too strong, but could we be hopeful for Game 2, or is that ridiculous?
I mean, I don't think anything is ridiculous at this point when you see the wording from Shams of like, this is unprecedented. And he's the first player with blood clots to return in season dealing with that. And not only return in season, come back in a span of potentially 4 or 5 weeks. I did hear that like 4 to 6 week timeline kind of kicked around of, we think realistically it's in here because of, and I think Shams kind of talked about this in his story, but how the Bucks caught it early was basically he was on the injury reports with soreness in that calf.
Soleus strain originally or something with the calf, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just soreness. And I guess the symptoms he was relaying, the Bucks medical staff are the ones that deserve the credit because they were like, this, what you're saying, this doesn't check out, especially with the scans that we've done of your calf. It's not a calf strain. And then we're able to discover what they did and start on this early. So when you hear the points of optimism early from Doc that it's lower in the body and in the leg and that we caught this early, that's what they mean of, yeah, what you're saying, this doesn't jive with a calf strain. It's got to be something outside of that. And that's how they got on this path and started him on blood thinners early.
I've been rewatching House, so that's impressive medical care to spot something that would slide past a lot of doctors, let alone medical staff of an NBA team. So the dream is back on. This idea, well, if Giannis and Dame get it going, and I think this series, and let's talk about the series, Giannis could average 36, and they could win it without Dame. It would be difficult, and I think it would be a war of a series with lots of close, contentious games. But the Pacers don't really have anybody for Giannis, and now if Dame is even able to come back,
is there a team that does?
Well, and I said this.
No, I get your point.
Like to reiterate, and I said this before I had you on. The Celtics or the Cavs or the Knicks, they have a collection of players.
Their
that
bodies,
but we've heard this for years. Bodies they can throw at them. The Pacers don't even have that. So if Giannis can do what he did, against the Suns or against the Celtics, even in 22, and Dame just fills in the cracks, like all of a sudden the optimism can be a lot greater, the excitement for Bucks fans, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the optimism that it's just shaping up to be, holy cow, the Bucks are going to be healthy going
Right.
into the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. I think the big thing too, like, let's even temper expectations and say, hey, Dame's first game will be game 3 in this series. It's not going to be game 1. We know that, but getting him back, the importance there. And I agree that I think there is a path in beating the Pacers without Damian Lillard. Anything beyond that, you need Damian Lillard in those series. Obviously, against a team as good as the Cavaliers, who we presume would be the second round opponent if you can win, and especially against the Boston Celtics. But the big piece is Indiana's a really good team, and they're a deep team. And I would assume we're going to see a lot of Giannis and Pascal Siakam defending each other in this series. The benefit the Pacers have there, and it's not that Pascal Siakam is a Giannis stopper, but Pascal Siakam was incredible in that series last year where he had, 73 points in the first 2 games. He's been much improved this year too. So if you're forcing Giannis to take on that load defensively, who's going to be the other guy that steps up? And not to say that, the other guys are incapable of it. I think the Bucks have some trusted shooters on the team this year, but you would still need a guy that can take over in those moments. And maybe as much as a lot of Bucks fans want it to be, maybe it is Kevin Porter Jr., but you
Not
feel
if you
much.
ask, what's his nuts? Who's the ESPN guy? Not McMahon.
Well, I mean, which one? Tim Bontemps. There's several of them. Yeah.
He's not going to do a damn thing in the playoffs, Justin. We've been told. And I said this before I had you on. Like, if he can give you 2 games in a 6-game series where he chips in a couple of points, and maybe 1 game at home where he gets hot for a quarter, like that doesn't seem like a lot, but in an NBA playoff series against a very good team, that's a lot.
Well, and I mean, the other thing for the Bucks is, we kind of joked about this in that final game against the Pistons, but then as you were joking, you're like, well, I'm kind of serious too. The Bucks have been victimized the last 3 postseasons, and even beyond that, they've been victimized by an opponent that has that guy or multiple guys that just all of a sudden turn it up. And it's that guy did that in that series. I mean, everybody that played for the Miami Heat in that first round series, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, they've never been the same since. Kevin Love too. So this has kind of been routine, and we've seen the Bucks shooting turtle in those situations. So if there is one thing you feel like, man, they are long overdue for this, it's to have that performance. Because not to say the Bucks have never had them, but it's been a while, right? Brent Forbes against the Heat, where we all love to cite, he outscored Jimmy Butler. Grayson Allen was really good in that series against the Bulls too, but that's it that you can count on. And seeing somebody, I know you're setting yourself up for disappointment when you look at his season numbers, but seeing Kyle Kuzma start to heat up and do what he did in that final game, you're thinking, okay,
sure,
is this the guy? Is it Kevin Porter Jr.? Is it Gary Trent Jr.? You just feel like, as good as Giannis is, if you have Dame back, the one thing you're still missing and you need is, remember that series where this guy did that, and that's who's going to be that guy in this series for the Bucks.
I had a caller mention Gary Trent Jr. Back, 15 minutes ago. I like his attitude. I like the way that he's wired. There's certain, especially 3-and-D players in the regular season, where it's like, I don't really trust you to play with the edge necessary to maintain that level in the playoffs. I feel like Gary Trent Jr. is probably somebody the Bucks fans aren't really talking about that's going to play a huge role for better or worse in this series.
Yeah, I got a lot of trust in him because, look, the big thing too, and I get, as we've talked about, the 82 versus 16 and doing it in the playoffs is different from the regular season. But for the most part, this season, in most of these games where the Bucks have had comeback wins or held off an opponent that was making a comeback, when you think about the biggest shots of the game and in those biggest moments, a lot of times it's been Gary Trent Jr. that's been hitting that shot for the Bucks.
Now, that Wolves game, without when they had nobody, like it was basically Gary Trent Jr. at the end.
Hit 2 threes late. Yeah. He doesn't have a huge sample size of playoff experience, but he has some experience. He's been in the first round twice. So, you're going to lean on him quite a bit, you would think, because of both ends of the floor, his offense and defense. And that's the guy too. I don't think it's coincidental. We've seen him as one of your closers down the stretch in these important games for the Bucks.
I really liked his comments the other day. Should we expect Bobby Portis's best basketball of the year? Hopefully.
I hope so. I mean, I think this is a potential big series for Bobby. And I am I've been accused of, and I'll accept the charges, a Brook Lopez stan, that I will go to the
Likewise.
ends of the
Great
earth to
club to
defend
be in.
him. But I do think this is a better series for Bobby Portis than it is Brook Lopez because of what the Pacers are going to want to do with pick and rolls. And Miles Turner had some big games last year. So I do think this is going to be one of those spots where you'd love to, not that you can't play Brook, but to be able to go to Giannis and Bobby Portis to get some more defensive versatility and switchability on the perimeter. I think that's going to be big for the Bucks. And Bobby had some big moments against the Pacers last year. I think it gets lost in the shuffle because of the ejection in Game 4.
This is a clown car of a series. It's hard to remember anything. I was considering asking, what did the Bucks learn last year? I don't know that who learned anything.
It's important to have Giannis.
Yeah, it's important to be healthy. Don't get ejected. Like, it was just such a big pile of a series. Justin Garcia is here, Bucks Radio Network. So I'm sure you're seeing or hearing this from some Bucks fans. It's like, well, Giannis is playing so well, Dame's going to come back and muck it up, right? And kill the mojo they've been on. Here's my spin. Here's what I told Bucks fans when I heard a little bit of that on Bill's show and begin the show tonight before you join. Hopefully Giannis has built up this confidence and he's gotten rolling in a way where he can keep it going, even accepting Dame back in and deferring to Dame a little bit, because I think it's as much of a confidence and a disposition thing as a workload thing, because his workload has been great. I think he can still play the same way, even dropping his workload down a little bit to accommodate Dame.
See, I think the number one, we know he's been cleared to return. We know he went through full practice today, which in itself is like, wow, he's still doing that when he's just moved through the blood thinners. I always thought it was like 72 hours you needed for it to fully leave your system. So even seeing that, man, he's been cleared for even full basketball activity in practice was startling to me for Damian Lillard. But the big thing is, there's still going to be this like working in process for Dame. And not just that, but as he's mentioned too, he's got to get his cardio back. He's got to get back to game shape and deal with that. So I don't know that we can fully expect Dame is back. And if that is Game 2, this is the Damian Lillard of old, and this is the guy you had throughout the regular season. There's probably going to be a bit of an on-ramp there. But to me, the bigger thing is, you know what? It's probably fine to at least have the threat of Dame out there and have what he's going to give you in those spots and just have another option to throw out there, because to your point, what we've seen, this works with Giannis as the guy that's basically been Nikola Jokic in the Eastern Conference for the last month, right? So this works. And if this means in the interim, we have to say, Dame, play off ball more and play off of Giannis and let Giannis lead the ship while he's kind of getting himself back. Great. And then maybe it's a conversation that you have to kick down the road and figure out if we can get through the first round. Now we got to look into okay, how do we fully reintegrate?
That means there's more road. That's a great problem to have. And I was talking about this too before, not to just recap the entire first half hour of the show, but like if Giannis is en route to scoring 36, he's got to go to the bench for 4 minutes. Can Dame help keep everybody else afloat, facilitate, get to the rim, get some free throws or hit some jumpers? One last Bucks question, then I have a couple big picture NBA quick hitters about the playoffs. What's Doc's biggest challenge schematically as a coach or adjustment wise or whatever? What's his biggest challenge in this series?
Well, I mean, it's got to be transition defense and what you do there. The Bucks have kind of gone in phases where they've been much improved and then it takes a step backward and then it's improved. It's usually tied into their personnel and rebounding and who's available, but Indiana is going to push the pace against you. And even on makes, the Pacers are going to try to run against you. You're in a much better spot than you were a year ago. I mean, go back to that series last year and look at the names that the Bucks are playing in that series. When you think about your bench was Pat Connaughton, Malik Beasley, Jay Crowder, Danilo Gallinari at times. So you're in a much better spot now where you feel like we can kind of keep up with the Pacers a little bit more, and our transition defense has shown moments of being much better. But Indiana's going to run a lot more than the Bucks. So how do you handle those spots, and how much can you start to dictate things? Which, the biggest thing is just put the ball through the net. As I mentioned, the Pacers will run on makes, but when you keep making it, and that's the other thing, the field goal percentages, and I get the opponents that the Bucks have played to close out the season, but to be routinely shooting in the mid to high 50s and 60% in a couple of games, like they've started to really find things. And sometimes it's as simple as making shots. But if you play that way, it gets demoralizing where it's not quite as easy to run on makes when it's routinely taking the ball out of the net.
60 seconds on the play-in. Hawks, Heat, and Mavs, Grizzlies tomorrow. Has this been a worthwhile exercise? Is this worth doing, do you think?
No, this has been like the first year of the play-in tournament. We had those rules of like you got to be within 5 games or whatever. That was kind of the fear all along. You were fortunate enough to have at least a handful of teams that felt like, okay, these are good, and especially in the West.
The Warriors involved, I'll watch.
Yeah. But now you've kind of gotten to the point of, we've got of the 8 teams, there's probably 3 to 4, 5 that are deserving.
Are the Thunder closer to the 2018 Mike Budenholzer Bucks or the Celtics of last year, where we watched them win the title and then we look back and say it was them all along? Why did we ever question that?
I mean, I guess I would say the latter, just because of what the net rating has been. But I'm still, famous last words, I'm still not fully sold, because I'm still curious who's the secondary guy that's going to make shots in big moments in the half court.
We've just seen it before. And I'm not trying to be anti-Thunder guy, but we're so often, well, they're so great. Look, of course they're going to win. And then they don't. And then, well, they were overrated all along. It's like, well, I'm just trying to find the middle ground right now. I'm very interested to see, would you pick who would your finals picks be right now?
Oh man.
Doesn't really matter if you don't have one that you care about.
You know what? I'll say Lakers Celtics.
I would love that. And a couple of my buddies we were talking about in our group chat are Wolves fans. I want to see the Lakers are fun. Make me feel like it's 2016 again. Give me a team that everybody either loves or hates. Take me back. Justin, we will look forward to your coverage. Thank you so much for this update and the information. This was nice.
Anytime.
Justin Garcia, the Bucks Radio Network. Always appreciate that son of a gun. For his time and for his information, 3 minutes. We'll wrap up hour number 1 next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, a couple minutes before we break here at 5 o'clock. We'll get an update from Zach and a real treat. Not to get out ahead of ourselves because we still have a full hour of the show left, but coming up at 6 o'clock, Thorson and Heilprin on WOZN here in Madison. So if you're a Madison listener, get to Monks and Sun Prairie for the show. And you could stream as well if your local affiliate doesn't carry the show. But with Ebo on vacation, he's in Myrtle Beach. Evan Flood will be joining Zach tonight. Now, I love Ebo. I think they do a great show. But my God, Badger football fans, you are crapping in tall cotton this week. We've had Colton, we've had Jesse, we've had Zach. Now we get Flutter on the network tonight. So you are just like a pig in slop, Badger football fans. Lots of good coverage. So that will be tonight, 6 o'clock in a little over an hour. Some texts, 608-321-1670. Rick from Spencer says, just watch Rodgers, blah, 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 blah. Same old Aaron. The only thing that was interesting was Aaron has a new love interest. I wonder how long before that crashes and burns. Oh, Rick, don't be so cynical. Why does it have to crash and burn? Don't we all learn from our failed relationships? Aren't we a better person in each one of our years on this planet? I don't have an opinion. I actually missed that part of the interview. The interesting part of his interview with McAfee today was his details of his Jets exit, his Jetsit. Like he put us in that room. And he was blasting the Jets. I think maybe some of it was warranted, but all just great drama. So that's mostly, I cut audio of him hinting at a lot of different topics just because he hasn't talked in a while and it's a story that people are interested in. So we'll get to that next. But the Jets part, the Jetsit, his exit from New York, that's the part that I really want to talk about. Bobby in Menominee says, I've been wanting a LeBron torn ACL for 14 years. A lot of negativity on the text line. Bobby also says, Dame has played at a Monte Ellis level since coming to Milwaukee. Have yet to see Portland Dame. Well, Portland Dame often showed up in the playoffs, mostly against Russell Westbrook and the Thunder. So maybe we'll see it against the Pacers if and when he's able to come back. Justin kind of okayed some optimism. So if Justin would have come on here and said, well, he's been cleared, but let's take it easy. No, Justin, he let us be fans. He let us fire it up a little bit. Dry Fly out in Montana says, any truth on the rumors of Damian Lillard being spotted near Oliva Strum this last Saturday? Adams Creek may have the cure to blood clotting. I will look into that. I didn't know Damian Lillard was up near Eau Claire. I think you might be pulling my chain. Damian Lillard and Oliva Strum. See, the Packers tailgate tour is like, oh, Tucker Kraft and Lucas Van Ness are in Cadott, or they're at the creamery in not Augusta, Ellsworth. I can see that. Damian Lillard being in Oliva Strum is like a polar bear in Arlington, Texas. That's a little bit more ridiculous of a concept. So a text made me laugh. Appreciate it, Dry Fly. Hope you're well over in the Great Plains or the Rocky, whatever portion of the country Montana is in. I don't know. Thank you for listening. A 2-minute update from Zach Heilprin. We'll come back. And I want to play some of this Aaron Rodgers audio. And a lot of the interview is classic Rodgers, same song and dance, and we don't need to dwell on that. But the details of his Jets exit are very interesting. I was riveted listening to the McAfee show earlier today. Your calls as well coming up next. 608-321-1670. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Just an update, no commercials.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update
Well, Milwaukee hit 3 home runs on its way to a 5-1 win over Detroit this afternoon to take 2 of 3 in the series. Christian Yelich got the hit parade going in the third inning with a solo shot, his 4th of the season. That gave the Brewers a 2-0 lead. Rhys Hoskins would follow that in the 4th inning as he hit a 2-run homer, his 2nd in as many games. Then Sal Frelick found a pitch he liked in the 6th, knocked it out for his first long ball of the season. All of it was plenty for a Brewers pitching staff that limited the Tigers to just 1 run over the final 2 games of the series. Today was Jose Quintana's turn, going 5 2/3 innings, allowing just 1 run on 4 hits to improve to 2-0 on the year. Brewers have now won 4 of their first 6 series of the season to sit at 10-9 on the year. After a day off tomorrow, they will welcome in the A's for a weekend series at American Family Field starting Friday. Turning to the Bucks, they were on the floor earlier today for practice as they get ready to head to Indiana for the first-round playoff series. They will not have Damian Lillard for the start of the series as he continues to recover from blood clots in his calf. However, the team is not ruling him out for the entire series as he starts to ramp up his on-court activity. Game 1 is coming up on Saturday.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, we are 8 days out from the start of the NFL draft. Things get going a week from tomorrow in Green Bay. The Packers own pick number 23 of the first round. And Wisconsin back in the field for practice tomorrow morning. Their spring game coming up on Saturday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Shams, what can you tell us about the status of Buck star Damian Lillard?
Malika, just over 3 weeks ago, Damian Lillard was diagnosed with a blood clot in his right calf. Now, in an unprecedented fashion, not 3.5 weeks later, today, Damian Lillard has been cleared from the blood clot in his calf. He's off blood thinning medication. He's cleared for full contact workouts starting today. He participated in a full practice with the Milwaukee Bucks today. And Bucks officials have been told by doctors that this is really remarkable, unprecedented recovery for him to do this. This has really never happened before in this length of time. It typically takes athletes several months, and even human beings several months to recover from this. So what are the reasons why? Some were the specialists involved in this, the early detection, and really the early treatment that started in the calf. Even before he was diagnosed in late March, I'm told Damian Lillard started blood thinning medication as a really preventative measure. And because of that, he's now able to make a return. Now, what does this mean for his status for game 1 against the Pacers on Saturday? I'm told he is still out for game 1. He's going to use the next several days to ramp up, do more workouts, get his cardio. He has not played, obviously, in quite some time yet this season. But this is really a remarkable recovery for Damian Lillard, a guy a lot of people thought maybe would not even have came back this year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this could have been career-threatening, or it was. And the fact that there's a very good chance that he's going to play in the playoffs for us, you know, that's a godsend.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
It's a little bit from Shams. It was the same with Woj, where anytime they would sit down Woj at the desk or Shams, they're like, tell us the latest. And then they would tell you the latest, but then they'd mix it into like 2 minutes of repetition and rambling. And this is medically, I mean, it's just for a player, for a human, just say the report. Just give us the info. And then shut up and let the other people at the desk say the rest. It's fine. Just I don't know why that annoys me. I like Shams. This is a good job. And I'm sure as he's on, TV more, there's just he's always got a hitch in his just God. This bothers me. It's an old man complaint. I realize I'm being a jerk. I'm just sitting here and we're a minute into this. I'm like, you just say the important stuff and then shut up. Let the other people that us talk. This is the Wisco Sports Show. If you missed Justin Garcia in the first half, wow, what an excellent, outstanding appearance and some great questions asked by the host too. A lot of good information about Damian Lillard and a couple early thoughts on the series as well, and a thought on the play-in. I kind of think it would be entertaining if the Lakers made the finals too. That I remain very intrigued at that possibility. It would feel like 2016 again, which I think would be a good thing. Here's what we're going to do. There's one caller on hold. Because it's just the one, I'm going to take that call, and then we're going to pause from the calls, and I'm going to play some Aaron Rodgers cuts. Because he did say a couple very interesting things on the Pat McAfee show today, specifically about how it ended with the Jets. The rest of it is classic Aaron Rodgers. And I'll play what you need to hear to know where he's at and what his next steps might be. But mostly I want to focus on his Jets exit. So I'm going to take one call here, but this is going to be the only one for a couple minutes. So I don't want to see the rest of them light up unless you're willing to wait on hold. Then you guys, anytime you're on hold for a couple minutes, and you yell at me. So just hang out, okay? 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Complaining about being on hold couldn't be me.
I know. You are a very patient caller, Vagabond John. I do appreciate that about you.
Last night, Grant, I think I called in towards the end of the show. You were talking Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And the show ended, and I was just like in the zone at Best Buy, and I think I sat on hold for about 8 minutes after the show ended, just like not really paying attention to my headphones at all.
Oh, did I not hang up on you after because we talked last night? Did I just leave you there?
No, we didn't talk last night. I think that was 2 nights ago. I was just, because last night you ended the show talking Bucks, unless maybe I got my days confused. But I am interested in the Bucks. I'm ready for playoffs to start. I thought the touching moment with Sal Frelick and the 105-year-old Pearl Harbor survivor. It's just, Grant, it is awesome to see members of the Bucks starting five throwing out opening pitches.
Is that an age joke? Are you saying that the Bucks are all ancient?
Yeah, I mean, 105 years old. I just assumed he was a member of the Bucks starting five, right? Like that's got to be where we're at.
There's a non-zero chance the Bucks are actually also paying him to be a coach at some point. They hired and fired the guy. Actually, though, a very nice moment from Sal Frelick. I did think that was a very nice moment from yesterday's game.
Quickly becoming a fan favorite if he's not already. I know a lot of haters in the crowd, but
couldn't be me.
Tough to hate on the guy. It couldn't be you. No, I'm excited for Bucks, but Grant, I did want to touch on what I talked about with Bill just a little bit earlier, and I think it kind of ties into the Aaron Rodgers thing. With this Tennessee quarterback, college football, I saw a Minnesota quarterback transferred today. And so you had all the Wisconsin accounts dunking on him, starting to post the boat sinking memes, and it's like, fellas, this is a quarterback that transferred to Minnesota to be their starter, and during spring ball was moved from first string to third string because that's how bad he was in practice.
He was Ches Malusi'd, basically, is what happened.
Well, but he actually performed bad based on reports from practice. Like Ches Malusi, I don't know if he was performing that much worse than everybody else. This guy actually just showed up and sucked. And the coaches made a football decision, and Wisconsin fans are trying to say, see, it's happening everywhere.
Wisconsin fans have been a bit rambunctious on Twitter. I don't know that I've enjoyed Badgers Twitter over the last 48 hours.
Well, it's good. It's good for the offseason. Let's be real. I mean, come on, it's fun, but I don't know.
I'd rather it tick me off than not exist at all and not move me at all, I suppose.
Yeah, and so this is kind of going along with our expectations for pro athletes versus college athletes. I've been kind of tooting this horn today. I know I called into Bill earlier, but I tried to make the comparison between Jordan Love winning a playoff game, immediately holding out a training camp, demanding more money to be paid, to the same thing as the Tennessee quarterback gets his team, a young team, to a playoff game, does the exact same thing, holds out of practice, and gets kicked out off the team for asking for a little more money, not $55 million a year, obviously. And then bringing in Aaron Rodgers. So I just think we have such a different expectation for college athletes, and I think that's kind of the theme this week as the portal opens. Everybody's calling them quitters. Everybody's saying like they should be buying into the system. And then you hear about things like, of course, Aaron Rodgers has been doing this for almost a decade now, of always disagreeing with coaches and getting into fights. So I think my overall thought process this week and kind of how I'm taking all the news that's coming in is, if college athletes are going to be paid and we're going to think of them more as semi-pro or professional athletes, then, when these stories come along, there should be more comparisons drawn between how star college players are holding out, demanding more money, and disagreeing with coaches, and how maybe a guy like Aaron Rodgers is, who's been obviously at a different level, obviously Hall of Fame NFL player, but still some of the same drama. It just seems like there are people who will give Aaron Rodgers the benefit of the doubt, even though clearly he's past his prime and hurting teams, and nobody's giving these college players the benefit of the doubt. So that's kind of my thought process.
Interesting. So the reaction to college players coming and going is mixed. It's a good call, Vagabond John. A little bit all over the place. You're trying to connect some things that maybe don't need to be connected, but sports talk radio, it's what we do. I see a lot of people who, without exception, will side with the players. And these are people who follow the Jay Billis kind of school of thought, or the Jay Billis spirituality. If you've never heard me talk about this before, I think Jay Billis is a heck of an analyst, not answer. I think he's a heck of an analyst. But sometimes it's like in his analysis, he always needs to show that he is the most understanding, the most sympathetic, it's like, no, sometimes you can rip a kid or a coach. Like you don't always have to be that guy. You don't have to be holier than thou. But I think there's a lot of people, it's like, if the coaches can make all the money, why can't the kids? If the coaches can leave whenever they want, then why can't the kids? It's like, well, that's an important piece of the puzzle and certainly always a good bit of perspective. But if the kids are making a lot of money and they're going from school to school, they are, in essence, professionals. They can be held to a different standard. We don't always have to side with the players. And we certainly don't always have to side with the school. And I think I've seen that with some Badgers fans over the last 24 hours. It's like, oh, this tight end, this wide receiver, they couldn't hang. Luke Fickell had to draw the line in the sand. Luke Fickell had to take a stand. It's like, well, Luke Fickell was the one who brought him here, though. You know what I mean? Like Luke Fickell identified, and his staff identified Tanner Kozioil as a player who could help him, and Mark Hamper as a player who could help him, brought him in. Luke Fickell then doesn't or shouldn't get to make an example out of them and then be celebrated. Like that doesn't seem fair. So I don't know. I think in this modern world of college sports, and I don't really want to keep talking about this, but I think in this modern world of college sports, we as fans and as members of the media like myself need to find a medium between always siding with the kids because they're kids and the coaches make millions, and always siding with the school because how could Luke Fickell and UW ever make a mistake, as in, losing these recruits? Now they're going to get tough. They got tougher. It's like, well, they didn't get tougher. They're ostensibly the same team they were last year, and that team wasn't tough. That team was notorious. That team was the least tough Badgers team I've ever seen in my life. They got pushed around like no other Badgers team I've seen in my life. So let's strike a balance in the middle. But I think sometimes it's the kids, sometimes it's the school, right? And that's going to be a balance that we have to strike as college fans. Okay, Aaron Rodgers on the McAfee Show today. The juiciest part of this interview was him talking about the Jets, and I want to do that after our next break. But as a matter of housekeeping, just so we're all updated on where Aaron Rodgers stands and his desire or lack thereof to play at a new destination, I believe this is what I labeled the cut. Aaron Rodgers, what's new? I believe was, in essence, the question from Pat McAfee.
I live kind of a quiet life. If it weren't for my buddy Tim and my sister Mia, I wouldn't hear about a lot of the bullshit that's out there.
Nice.
But Mia finally said, listen, you got to go on the show and just set some of these ridiculous rumors and all these people who said they're close to me, sources, just set them straight, because there's been a lot of bullshit out there. And again, 90% of it, I wouldn't hear about if it wasn't for Mia or Tim. So shout out to both of them, because I'm sure they're watching. But yeah, it's been an interesting break for me. But yeah, it's been hanging out with Apollo, and enjoying my time.
So here's the part of this question and answer, and off the rip, and I've said this, but let me reiterate for those who've joined. Like, this is classic Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, well, I don't see a lot of the drama. Like, this is nothing new. But here's what I don't get about this line of thinking, or what he's saying. He's saying, well, Mia is his sister's name, which I didn't know. Maybe you knew. I didn't. There's a lot of this that I didn't know. The people in his circle, it's a tight circle, right? And he'll tell you that. Saying, Rodgers, you got to go on the McAfee Show and dispel some of these rumors, some of these narratives, which is a word that just pushes my buttons. What's a narrative? If there's a story that's reported by a credible report, is that a narrative? That's a report. That's not a narrative. Now, what certain talking heads want to do with it, that's their own business. You don't have to like it. That's a matter of being a professional athlete in the public eye. Separate conversation. But what I don't get is, hey, you got to go on the show and dispel some of this stuff. What is there to be dispelled? What is being said about Aaron Rodgers at this moment in time? Everyone wants to know where he's going to go. Everyone's curious as to where he's going to sign or shoot, is he going to retire? So everyone's curious and everyone's talking about how they're curious and everyone's talking about how they're wondering. And some people might be annoyed. That's their choice. If you want to pull your hair out over the fact that Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed with a new team yet, well, that's your problem. That's not Rodgers' problem. That's not anyone else's problem other than yours, right? But what kind of narratives, what kind of things have been said about Rodgers? Like the only thing that's been reported and discussed that's concrete with Rodgers is that, and Albert Breer reported this on Monday, I believe. Albert Breer is as credible and as tapped in as anybody. Said Rodgers and the Vikings had met or they had talked, and basically Rodgers talked about a world in which where he would come in and he would play for a year and he would be a mentor to JJ McCarthy, and that's kind of how it would look like, right? This loose concept of what it would look like for Aaron Rodgers for a year in Minnesota, at least a year to start. Is that a narrative? Is that something that needs to be dispelled? Is that something that needs to be shot down? Like, no, I just think that's a report of a conversation that took place between a quarterback looking for a team and a team that might be looking for a quarterback. So this idea that, they told me you got to go on the air, you got to dispel some of these things. Rodgers, I don't think there's any nasty narratives floating around out there about you right now, other than you haven't signed, which if people want to get pissy about that, fine. Let them get pissy. And you know what? If it bothers you that much, then sign somewhere. But you do you. Let others do their own thing. You gotta go and dispel these things. I think he's doing a disservice. Not that it matters. He continues about the Vikings and narratives.
And a lot of narratives that have not been anywhere near accurate. Starting with the Jets, continue with something I just read about, me pitching something to the Vikings. I know Ben, I only know this again because of me. Ben was on the show talking about me waiting around for the Vikings. That's not accurate either. I know I'm sure a lot of sentiment from both.
Well, first of all, let's pause it there. You are waiting around. You know what I mean? You haven't signed yet. So whether it's framed as you're waiting around or you're taking time off or you're deciding what you want to do, that's not inaccurate. It's certainly not malicious to be like, he's waiting around. So what if he is? He's examining the landscape. And this is when I say classic Aaron Rodgers to say, I never pitched the Vikings on anything. Okay, Rodgers, what does it matter? Right? It's not like Albert Breer reported that you presented a PowerPoint. It was presented as, you guys talked, the Vikings and Aaron Rodgers talked. He's very close with Kevin O'Connell, as he talked about today. They've been friends or they've known each other a long time. They talk often. You guys kicked around the idea of what it would look like of 1 year of Aaron Rodgers in Minnesota. Well, I didn't pitch him. Oh my God, dude. Who cares? So this is what I'm saying when it's kind of classic Rodgers.
Even maybe Vikings fans about certain things, but no. I've known Kevin forever. I've known Kevin O'Connell since we used to work out at Fitness Quest 10, I think it was called, in San Diego County, in North County. I've known him for 17, 18 years, and we got a good friendship. So we talk outside of just, this offseason. We keep in touch during the season. So we've had good communication.
So here he is talking about how they've had good communication. So you've talked. So you've chatted. And you've kicked around the idea of what it would look like. I didn't pitch him. It's semantics. We're back to circumcising a mosquito over linguistics, which does not necessitate an appearance on a sports talk radio show, if that's the only reason you're doing it. You know what I mean? This is why I think Rodgers wears on some people sometimes. Well, one more thing, and then I want to get to the Jet stuff on the other side of this break. Pat McAfee asked him, might you retire? Because I saw a lot of tweets and comments saying, man, it sounds like Rodgers is going to retire. So this is a little bit of that.
You are thinking, is retirement still on the field? Like, where are you whenever it comes to like playing or not playing? Playing for $10 million, by the way, makes it very easy for a lot of teams to be able to accommodate you.
And by the way, it's not in this bit of audio, but Rodgers basically said, it's not about the money. I'd play for $10 million.
I mean, that's what I told him in March, in the very beginning. You can ask any one of the teams I talked to. That was the conversation. But also the conversation about where I was at in my personal life, the stuff I'm dealing with off the field, in my inner circle, that has to take my attention right now. And so I wasn't, stringing anybody along. I wasn't holding anybody hostage. I was honest from the jump about where I was at mentally and some of the constraints that I have in my life right now that warrant my attention. So yeah, I'm open to anything and attached to nothing. So yeah, retirement still could be a possibility. But right now, my focus has been and will continue to be on my personal life, and that's what I've told the coaches. There's still conversations that are being had, and so it's all been very honest lines of communication. I've really appreciated the time I talked to the various teams.
All right, so that's classic Rodgers, kind of an update on where he is in his search or lack thereof for a new team. On the other side, we'll get to the juiciest part, him describing how it ended with the Jets. And if you missed this, I think this was the best part of the interview. This is legit, inside information of what took place in a meeting at the end between a head coach, and it's very, very good. So we'll get to that on the other side of this break.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
So yeah, I'm open to anything and attached to nothing. So yeah, retirement still could be a possibility. But right now, my focus has been and will continue to be on my personal life.
It's a little bit from Aaron Rodgers earlier today on the McAfee Show. He had some interesting comments, and certainly worth listening to some of it just as a matter of housekeeping, because we already got to the Dame stuff and the Buck stuff. Justin Garcia was great. We've hit the Badgers hard. We've hit the draft pretty hard this week. And Rodgers' next destination, even if it's retirement, it remains a big NFL story. So Rodgers talking openly about that. I'm going to play a little bit of that again, just as a matter of housekeeping, so we're all caught up. I thought the most interesting part of this interview is what we're going to get to next, and that was him talking about the end with the Jets. But I replayed that little soundbite from an answer we already heard for a reason, and let's listen one more time.
So yeah, I'm open to anything and attached to nothing. So yeah, retirement still could be a possibility. But right now, my focus has been and will continue to be on my personal life.
I pointed this out to Bill when we listened a little bit to it earlier today, because this was this afternoon. I think in the 12 o'clock hour, maybe. If I was a coach and a general manager or someone in a front office and we're sitting down and we're having meetings like, okay, we're not really sure what we want to do at quarterback. And Pittsburgh is maybe the best example of this. There might be some other teams, but I think Pittsburgh is the perfect example to use for this discussion. If I work in the front office in Pittsburgh, or if I'm a coach or a member of the personnel team, one of my biggest concerns about bringing in Aaron Rodgers, or one of the biggest talking points when we're sitting around talking about bringing in Aaron Rodgers, is, okay, how badly does he want to play? You know what I mean? Because if he is indifferent, he's like, well, if the perfect situation, I guess I could. If you are uber talented and you're at the top of your game, that type of demeanor, that type of approach is fine. That California cool, laid back, kind of the antithesis of Tom Brady. That's fine, because you're an unbelievable player. It doesn't matter. When you're 40 and you're coming off an Achilles and you're old and you can't move anymore, like, you can't really be halfway in as a football player, So again, if I worked in a front office, I would need to hear from Aaron Rodgers, I need to play football. I don't know what I'd do without football, right? I can't even imagine retiring. I have so much more left in the tank, and I want to get to work, man. Like, I want to get on a team so I can dig my hands in with my teammates, get into the playbook so we can hit the ground running now, because, I'm 40 and who knows how many chances I'm going to have to do that. Like, that's the messaging I want to hear. I don't want to hear, I'm interested in some things, but I'm attached to nothing. Like, that's the opposite of what I want to hear. Right. And Rodgers has probably had these conversations with Pittsburgh because he's talked with lots of these teams. Right. That's what he said. But it's this type of messaging that if I was on the fence about bringing in Rodgers, I'd be out. And it's nothing personal against him. And it's not that he can't focus on his personal life, but I can't have you in mid-May still wondering if you even want to play football. And maybe that's unfair to Aaron, but that's the nature of this league, where you take one wrong step or you make one bad decision or you mess up one play and your head is blown off of your body by 300-pound men with muscles the size of tree trunk. You know what I mean? Like, this game, you can't be half in, half out, especially at age 40. So I think that was the comment when Rodgers today was discussing his future and what he might want to do. Like, that was the comment that struck me most. And and that's why I played it again. Plus a pretty catchy turn of phrase.
I'm open to anything and attached to nothing. So
open to anything and attached to nothing. Rodgers does have a way with words. No matter how you feel about him, you can never take that away from him. Okay, I want to talk about the end with the Jets, because this was fascinating to me. I have about a 2-minute bit of audio here, and I'll pause it. We can react through him describing his flight to New York to meet with decision makers. And he was pretty clear, like, look, I knew the Jets would want to move on. So it's not like he was blindsided in this meeting. But I saw a lot of Jets reporters reacting strongly to this. Like, it did not end well with the Jets and Rodgers, and I think there's a lot of animosity both ways. Like, this was not an amicable split. At least it doesn't sound like it, which I kind of figured it would be, like, amicable enough. Amicable as much as it can be, right? Like, breakups are never perfectly clean. Like, they're never like, like that Seinfeld episode where you go, no, I'll be fine. Like, no, there's always some. But this is a fascinating peek behind the curtain of his meeting with the Jets front office members and their new coach, Aaron Glenn. So we're just going to play this, and I'll jump in and we can react as it plays.
We start talking. He runs out of the room.
You meet with the coach.
We start talking. He runs out of the room. I'm like, that's kind of strange. I was like, then he comes back with the GM. And I'm like, all right. So we sit down in the office, and I think we're going to have this long conversation. I've flown across the country, and 20 seconds in, he goes, I mean, literally, I'm talking to the GM about something, and he leans to the edge of his sheet and goes, "So do you want to play football?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm interested."
So that's what struck me first in this soundbite. And there's another 90 seconds, so there's a lot that we could talk about. But like the coach saying, "Do you want to play football?" And Rodgers saying, "Yeah, I'm interested." Wrong answer, right? This is just what I was hinting at with that previous comment. Like, you're 40, man, and you injured your Achilles, and you played fine last year down the stretch. You seemed to kind of get your legs under you, but you weren't lighting the world on fire. That's not good enough. That answer is not good enough. I need yes, I need to. I can't imagine my life without football.
I'm talking to the GM about something, and he leans to the edge of his sheet and goes, "So do you want to play football?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm interested."
That's not good enough.
"Yeah, I'm interested." And he said, "We're going a different direction at quarterback." And I said, and I was kind of shocked. Now, not shocked because I didn't think that was a possibility. Listen, of course, they want to move on. That's totally fine. But shocked because I just flew across country. You could have told me this on the phone. If we weren't even going to have a conversation, and this is verbatim exactly how it happened.
So let's pause it there. The flying across the country thing does suck. Like that does stink. I don't know if I told you about this, but I was just in Iceland. It's a long flight. Long plane rides suck. And I doubt Rodgers was sitting in economy. I'm more of an everyman, obviously, but that sucks. You know what I mean? Like that's a whole thing. That's like a full day of travel, and then however long you're there, and then a full day of travel back. That does suck. So I'm sympathetic to that. I do wonder a little bit, like, what were you when you say I expected that we'd talk? Well, what did you expect you'd talk about? You know what I mean? Like I think of Angela in The Office when it comes time to have performance reviews. Like, did you just want them to toot your horn? Did you just want what did you when you say, well, I thought we'd talk? Like I guess I question a little bit like what he expected. But flying across the country, I'd expect for the meeting or whatever to take more than 10 minutes.
If we weren't even going to have a conversation, and this is verbatim exactly how it happened. So I said, "Huh?" And he goes, "We just want to know how you want it released, the messaging." And I said, verbatim, "I don't give a shit about the message." And I said, "Why?" And then he said, "I don't want to be up in front of the room saying something and have guys looking back at you."
Interesting.
And I said, "What does that even mean? Are you assuming that?"
I will say, I will say, just because I'm a guy with a lot of guy friends and guys argue about stupid stuff, when you're in an argument or in an exchange and the other guy goes, "What does that even mean?" Like most times that means you got him. So that's what I thought when I heard that.
And I said, "What does that even mean?"
Like that's you got him a little bit.
What does that even mean?
What does that even mean?
Are you assuming that I would be in the back of the room during a team meeting undermining what you're saying? I said, "You don't know me." And he said, "You don't know me." And then I said, "Exactly," which is why I flew across the country to have a face-to-face meeting with you to talk about my experience with the Jets and to hear your vision for the team.
See, like, it's very nice. And I'm very sympathetic to Rodgers in this because he flew across the country and that does suck. Okay. So if I'm traveling, if I'm sojourning long and far, like I guess I would expect it to be for some reason. I think it's a little delusional. Maybe delusion's an unfair word. I think it's a little misguided to think, well, they'll go in there and they're going to ask me all these questions, but get my notebook here. How was your time with the Jets? How can we improve? Rodgers, you've been in the league for so long. Help us be better, please. Help me. I'm a first-time head coach. Please tell me, can I tap into your wisdom? Guide me as I begin my head coaching career. Like, is that what Rodgers thought was going to happen? I'm sure he thought there would be a longer conversation, and that's fair. But I think it's a little misguided. Like, did they want to just sit there and listen to your wisdom for hours on end? And then you ask him, well, what's your vision for the Jets? Yeah, I'll tell you what I think about it. Like, I just don't think that's what it was going to be. So if that's what you're expecting, then yeah, this meeting probably feels like an ambush. Probably could have been a phone call, as Rodgers said, but also, like, then you're the organization. that fires someone over the phone, and that's no good either. So no one's really winning here, as for the most part, in most breakups, nobody wins. So I don't know. We'll continue. Let's finish this up.
20 seconds in. What I thought was going to be a couple-hour meeting turned into like a 15-minute meeting, and I walked out of there. But
so at that moment,
that was a strange meeting for sure. There was no me pleading like, "Please have me on the team." No,
I don't know.
Diana Rossini did.
It was already a debacle.
Diana Rossini did. She did kind of. So a lot of times Rodgers will bring up, "Oh, I want to shoot these narratives down," and a lot of times they're like not real. Like this narrative that he pitched the Vikings. Like, okay, maybe you didn't pitch him, but like you're making it sound like you never talked to the Vikings about what it would look like you coming in for a year and mentoring. Like that happened, and that's fine. You don't need to shoot that down. Diana Rossini did kind of report. I don't think it was kind of. She did report, if I remember correctly, that he begged the Jets for his job. So he does have an axe to grind there. Some people don't feel the need to grind axes. Some people just leave the axe. That's not Rodgers, obviously. Something that I found interesting is I saw a lot of Jets reporters during this today kind of giving their reaction. Zach Rosenblatt from The Athletic, some of the things that he tweeted. He tweeted, Aaron Rodgers is getting fired up. He is not a fan of Aaron Glenn. Another one was Aaron Rodgers on Aaron Glenn. Why would you not pick my brain? Which I just thought was a little funny. Aaron Rodgers on the Jets. I felt there wasn't an ample amount of respect in that meeting. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised based on some of the things I saw there over 2 years. And then he then tweeted, this is the reporter, the Jets reporter. Let me just say I'm not mad. I don't need to tune into this anymore after today. And then his last tweet was, actually 2 more. I could have sworn Rodgers said a couple of years ago he doesn't take phone calls anyway. I read these tweets to point out, like, there are plenty of times, and you see this with the Packers too, where players come and go, they're traded, they're released, and they're still thought of very highly. You know what I mean? Like local media reporters, you see this in baseball a lot, where local beat reporters like Kurt or Todd or Adam, they'll be excited like, today Willie Adames is back in the clubhouse, and they're taking pictures and they're catching up. So it's not like every time a player departs, like it's like you don't always see this, is my point. So when I see Jets reporters kind of taking pot shots, it did stand out to me. Aaron Rodgers has never been fired before. He doesn't like how it feels. His words today only further prove that Aaron Glenn did the right thing. The Jets were right to move on from Aaron Rodgers. That's as obvious now as it was in January. That was his last tweet. There were and I probably didn't bookmark enough of them. But a lot of Jets reporters, and it kind of seemed like they had an axe to grind and they were ready for this thing to be done, and they were ready to take their shots at the end. Very interesting. That was, you could skip the whole Rodgers McAfee thing today, but that I wanted to set aside a segment for those 2 minutes for Rodgers to basically, put the Jets on blast. I had to fly across the country on my dime, which does suck. Like, I'm sympathetic to that. But then, like, if they don't want to meet you face to face and they just call you and you do this on the phone, like, are you going to be mad at them because they did it over the phone? You know what I mean? Do you want them to fly to you? It might be a little ridiculous. I don't know. I don't know that there's a great way to do it. Breakups are never easy. Firings are never easy. Let's take a couple-minute break. We'll continue the Wisco Sports Show. Do not go anywhere.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'll set it all straight. I have no problem. Listen, from the jump, it's, I'm in a different phase of my life. I'm 41 years old. I'm in a serious relationship. I have off the field stuff going on that requires my attention. I have personal commitments I made, not knowing what my future was going to look like after last year, that are important to me. And I have, a couple of people in my inner circle who are really battling some difficult stuff. So I have a lot of things that are taking my attention, and have beginning in really January, away from football. And that's been where I've been focusing most of my attention on. To make a commitment to a team is a big thing, whether you're a first-year player or a 20, 20-year vet.
I am more than sympathetic to a lot of things that Rodgers talked about today. Hope that whatever's going on is okay. I am sympathetic to the fact that he flew all the way across the country to basically be told thanks, goodbye. Like, that does suck. But if you do that over the phone, then that's also a bad look. So that's kind of a no-win situation. I laugh is the wrong word. I just find it funny a little bit that Rodgers is like the one person on planet Earth who is not capable of doing two things at once. You know what I mean? Like, Rodgers is like, hey, my mind is on this right now. It's like, well, you know what? Actually, a lot of people have their minds on multiple things at once. Life often necessitates it, you know? But Rodgers operates a little differently, which is fine. You know what I mean? I wish he would relax a little bit. And I don't mean to make this the Aaron Rodgers hour, but, you know, he's been talked about so much and there's been so much speculation on where he's going to go. And then he goes on McAfee today and gives us some juicy sound bites. I wish he would release himself a little bit from constantly needing to shoot down narratives. Like, it's got to be exhausting. And the narratives right now aren't even that bad. Like, when you're in the public eye and you make a bunch of money, like, people are going to report things or they're going to say things. And sometimes those things are going to be wrong. I would be willing to bet that Diana Rossini's report, I believe it was her report. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Rossini's really good. But there was a report where it was stated that Rodgers kind of begged the Jets for his job. And I do have a hard time believing that because I think Rodgers probably wanted out of there. Just the way that he talked about his time with the Jets today. And we had gotten previous reports. I think it was from Breer, because he's had a lot of good Rodgers juice in his Monday morning quarterback at SI the last couple of weeks. I think it was Breer, but I could be wrong. Basically, he had a story about how Rodgers now looks back at his time in Green Bay, and it's like, I did pretty good. Like, that was a great structure. Like, it wasn't perfect. And I think, you know, the Packers, maybe like the Steelers or like some other NFL teams or professional, you know, sports franchises, move a little bit more slowly. They err on the conservative side rather than the aggressive. And I don't mean conservative politically, but I mean in terms of asset management. You know, we're not just going to go throwing away draft picks for this or that or a bunch of money for this or that, even though I think they probably should. The thing is, like, if Brian Gutekunst would have been operating the Packers for the last 4 years of Ted Thompson's tenure, it probably looks different. Like, there's probably some deals that are done, and maybe it results in a different, you know, result in 2014. Like it might have. You don't know. The Packers, I still think, are very much on the conservative side in terms of asset management. They're a lot more Steelers than they are Rams. But Brian Gutekunst, to his credit, and I talked about this with Andy Herman a couple of weeks ago on Pack-A-Day, and I feel the need, like, I need to bring this up because I think it does a great disservice to the Packers and the way they run their business when Packers fans, a lot of Packers fans, well, the Packers, they never do anything in free agency. They'll never make a trade. They'll never do this. They'll never do that. In the last few off seasons where the Packers have had money to spend, they've spent it aggressively on high-level players. You know what I mean? When they've had money to spend, it's not like they throw, you know, a couple shillings at Sammy Watkins. Like, no, although they did sign Sammy Watkins, so I probably should have used a different example, but they went out and paid for Za'Darius and Preston Smith and Adrian Amos. They paid for Xavier McKinney. And they paid, who's the other one they brought in? Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs feels like so much of a Packer after his first year that I often forget that they brought him in and they spent a check on him in free agency, right? So, like, a lot of Packers fans are like, they never spend, they never do anything. They spent this offseason, and yet there are Packers fans who call or join, especially Bill's show on the live shows. The Packers never spend another offseason, never do anything. It's like, do you even, like, are you paying attention to the Packers, or do you just, like, you're just complaining? People like to complain. I get it. I get it. I love to complain. Complaining is great. It's a human thing that binds us all together. But, like, complain about something else, because Packers spend money. But there's been reporting, back to my original point, about how Rodgers, you know, looks back now at his time in Green Bay a little bit and it's like, yeah, that was pretty good. Like, that was a pretty good structure. I wouldn't mind playing for another organization like that. And the Steelers, I think, would apply. I saw Ryan Horvat tweet this today. Bart Winkler was with us last night. He basically said the same thing. If I had to bet money right now, I think he joins the Steelers late in the summer. He joins the Steelers in late July or early August. And I think he's a Steeler. He's got things going on in his personal circle, which I do not mean to downplay, especially if someone's dealing with a health, scare or whatever it might be in his family or in his inner circle. It's hard to take him seriously because he says inner circle. If he says, "Hey, one of my best buddies is going through this, and I'm there for him," or my family's dealing with something right now. But he said the way he says inner circle, like it's hard to not roll your eyes a little bit. But I would bet dollars to donuts that Rodgers is going to focus on his personal life right now. Maybe take a trip this summer and then join the Steelers in August. That would be my guess. That seems to be where this is trending, and I think the Steelers are a great destination for him. I pulled my hair out a little bit listening to Colin Cowherd the last few weeks, and if you've listened, you know what I'm talking about. Right? Cowherd has basically been saying he shouldn't go to the Steelers. The Steelers, they can't get O-line right, and Tomlin is a defensive-minded head coach, and they got hot-headed wide receivers. They're in a good division. He can't go. Okay, but what if the choice is the Steelers or retire? You know what I mean? Like sometimes Rodgers' next destination has been talked about like he can pick from any team in the league. Well, if he could pick from any team in the league, yeah, the Steelers wouldn't be at the top of my list. I'd want to go to the Rams, or I'd want to go to the Vikings. Or, interestingly enough, like with a good coaching staff, and like the Jets are actually, they have some nice talent there. The Giants to a lesser degree. But like the Steelers might be his only choice. So, and I've been listening to Cowherd, who I think is great. I love Cowherd, but I think he's missing the point on this. It's like the point isn't that the Steelers are perfect and they're ready to win a Super Bowl. The point is he's 41 and has limited options. The fact that the Steelers are an option, if you would have told me 2 months ago before the season was done, hey, he could join the Steelers, like you would have taken it because the other choices might have been Tennessee or the Giants, who stink. Let's take a quick call here, and then we got to get one more break in. Wisco Sports Show, who's this? Never mind. Let's try line 2 real quick. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant.
Hey,
Tony from Texas.
What's going on?
You're talking about Rodgers. I got some inside information. This is true. I'm friends with Jermichael Finley.
I do know that you're friends with Jermichael Finley.
Okay. Nice Elevate You shirt, I might add.
Thank you.
Looks good on you.
This is Tony. Yeah, Tony sent me an AAU polo, which is a very nice polo. I feel like.
And by the way, could be the number one team in Texas. But we'll talk about it another day. So, Jermichael was out there in LA. He's got a kid that might, he's getting recruited. So he's out there by UCLA. He says, yeah, Rodgers actually invited me out to throw the balls around with DK Metcalf. Connect the dots. DK Metcalf, Steelers, Rodgers is going to the Steelers.
Was this, how long ago was this?
Last week.
So this would be
weekend.
This would be the second throwing session because he already did it with DK Metcalf and they took the video. So this is a second session.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, that's not nothing. Thank you, Tony. I got to take a break because I was like, Tony, I thought you was talking about because they took video. Like they posted the video everywhere the first time they did. But a second throwing session behind the what's the Seinfeld line? There must have been a second shooter behind the blah, blah, blah on the grassy knoll. There must have been a second session. That's not nothing. I think he joins the Steelers in August. That's what I would bet on. Let's take one last break, and we'll come back and wrap up the show before we turn things over to Heilbronn and Flood. Evan Flood standing in for Ebo tonight at Monks and Sun Prairie. How lucky are we?
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, last couple minutes. If you're a member of our Madison audience, WOZN, our flagship station, this has been your lucky week. Because if you are looking for coverage, wall-to-wall coverage, I might add, of what's going on at spring ball with their spring game coming up on Saturday, man, we've supplied it to you this week. Holy crap, have we supplied it to you this week. Colton was on with me Monday. Zach called in on Tuesday. Jesse Temple yesterday. And tonight, now, we normally have Thorson and Heilprin, and it's an excellent show. And, you know, sometimes they Ebo's a blast and a half, a morning show through and through. So they'll talk about aliens and conspiracies and, you know, all the thing, guy stuff, you know. But Zach, what an asset as someone who's at these Badgers practices and can give us the latest on everything. So it's normally an excellent show week to week, but tonight, something a little special with Ebo in Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, standing in for Ebo tonight, Evan Flood. Holy balls, Badgers fans. And also, if you haven't gotten to the episode of the camp from earlier this week that Zach and Jesse recorded, like, you have that too. Yeah, you're just swimming in it, Badgers fans. So we get ready for the spring game coming up on Saturday. And speaking of the Badgers, by the way, there's going to be a lot of Badgers in Green Bay next week. I saw a list of players that will be presenting or announcing draft picks, like a lot of Badgers. So not a lot of them are possibly eligible for the draft. So that's secondary. Hunter Wohler, later rounds probably. The lineman whose name escapes me. I possibly did get a text from a very jaded coworker earlier today who possibly, maybe, could have produced Bill's show once upon a time. And he did want to point out that all of those Badgers, or most of those Badgers, who will be announcing picks or presenting picks at the draft next week are Paul Chris guys. I would never point something like that out because it sounds like I have sour grapes towards the current administration at UW, which could not be further from the truth. I wish them nothing but the best, and I remain excited about the season. Just, you know, working through some things in spring ball, obviously some players going in and out, some injuries. So Evan will be joining Zach at Monk's in Sun Prairie. Stop by. I recommend the wings. They are delicious. Sometimes you go to a bar and you're like, wings are wings. You know, Monk's has got some pretty banging wings. I would enjoy that. Their beer is delicious. Poured ice cold. Excellent service. So when you go in, say hey to Zach, say hey to Evan, engage in some Wisconsin sports talk, and enjoy their happy hour. Tomorrow, we'll be back. We'll lean into some Packers draft talk tomorrow because I feel like we've hit the Brewers. We hit the Bucks today. We did some Aaron Rodgers talk, which was fun. Kind of a throwback, right? I'll be back tomorrow at 4. Cannot wait. Never miss a Friday show.